following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back talking sports in the zone, in particular New York sports. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Robert Cole is here, and so is Marty Rose. Start with Robert Cole. How are you?
Very well, Ralph, very well. Want to wish you and Marty both a happy Veterans Day.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to let Marty take the happy Veterans Day wishes. He was a real veteran. Marty, we talked about this on Facebook.
Let's not start that again.
Well, you served overseas, Mert, and
okay.
I served at Travis Air Force Base in San Francisco. When I think of being a veteran and what it means to serve the country, I just want to thank Marty Rose, my friend.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I just did what they told me to do, and luckily, it wasn't that bad of a time for me. So. Yeah.
Well, that notwithstanding, you were in Vietnam. There was a war going on.
Right, so, and we had so we had to dodge a few mortar attacks at night. We did. I'll admit that. We had a nice. We had to take. We had to take cover a few times in a cement building when the mortars came flying in, but not too many.
That in itself, Mert. Happy Veterans Day, my friend. And I say that you can't see it on the radio, but I've got the elbow up for a salute.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
And Robert, I salute you too for not having to go through it.
Well, in my case, I had a medical deferment with multiple shoulder dislocations from playing high school football. And really? Yeah. I dislocated my shoulder 6 times. The last time being when I rolled over in bed. So.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
So that's what kept me out.
Did you ever eventually have surgical? I mean, they changed surgery from what it was back then, where it would have been major surgery, to arthroscopic surgery that might have tightened up the ligaments or whatever. Or I'm sure there's a more technical term for that somewhere.
What happened in my case was that my orthopedic was also the consultant for our local draft board. And what he had told me was, the Army will take you, but you won't last a week, and your shoulder dislocate. Now, the Army was still doing the old type surgery where they put a pin in to the ligament to hold them together. He was one of the first surgeons to start doing the other surgery, which is where they cut the ligament out, the stretched part of the ligament out, and then he sewed the 2 parts of the ligament back together again, which tightens the shoulder. Of course, you don't have full range of motion anymore, which is the reason that I got the deferment. But that were the choices he gave me. He said, you can go in. He said, and let the Army do it, and they'll pay for it, but this is how they do it, or you can get it done privately. So, my parents decided.
And that's what you did, and at the same time you got the deferment. So
yes,
it worked out. What precipitated the shoulder injury in the first place?
Well, the very first time was I was in a fight in high school. I got cold-cocked, unexpectedly, fell into the lockers, and when I went to try to, defend myself, I couldn't move my left shoulder. So that was the first time. The second time was playing baseball, sliding head first into second base, and winding up hitting the shortstop's knee. Okay, and then 2 more times playing high school football, and then the last 2 times were diving into a swimming pool, and it went out. And then the last time, like I said, was I rolled over in bed, and it popped out.
I imagine the pain when that happens, too. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah. And the first time, okay, it went back in by itself, okay. That's another long story that I'll tell you guys when we're having a beer together sometime. But the second time that it popped out, the doctor actually, without me being put under anesthesia or anything, actually pulled it back into place. And that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life.
Wow. Well, you never would have made it through basic training, Robert. As soon as they told you to give 20 push-ups, you would have done 1 or 2 and collapsed.
That's what he said. The doctor said, you can go ahead and go in, because I was trying to enlist in the Navy because I had a very low number. I mean, I was going pretty quickly. So I wanted to enlist in the Navy, and he goes, I'm telling you, he says you can if you want to. He said, but you won't make it a week.
There you go.
Hey, Mert, I don't remember numbers like that.
No, we didn't have numbers. The numbers started a little bit after that.
Okay.
Like my brother had a number, but yeah, we didn't have the numbers. It had not started yet, and if you were not like a full-time college student at the time, they were going to take you. They were going to take you.
Yeah.
So that's once I stopped college after 2 years, I said, well, what do I do? Do I get drafted for 2 years or less, or do I do what my friend Ralph did, or my friend Steve Weiss did, is join the Air Force, and they seemed to be having a pretty good time of it, So
yeah, we were in California, and that was the pitch of it. You were stationed in Massachusetts.
Well, wait. I could just tell you how the Air Force computers work at that time. You got to remember, this is 1967. Okay, the computers were just starting, basically. When you sign up, they ask you, where would you like to be stationed? And you fill in like 3 choices or something like that. A couple of choices. So I filled in, instead of filling in like everything on the West Coast or everything on the East Coast, I put in some on both sides, and they stick me right in the middle. That's
I don't remember them asking me a choice at that time.
Okay, I do. Well, you went in a couple of years before me, so
I did.
Yeah. So yeah, it was East Coast or West Coast. I wind up in San Antonio, and so
I don't think it was a couple of years. What year did you enlist?
Well, I went in June of '67.
Oh, I was in November of '65.
Okay. All right.
You were going to school and were getting a deferment at that point. I had no deferment. Things were going along swimmingly, and I get a letter that says, come down for your physical, and there was nothing wrong with me, and it never occurred to me to, find a doctor, bone spurs. I could have been president if I thought of that. But I didn't. It wasn't something was even in our minds. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't remember knowing anything about Vietnam or Vietnamese or what's going on. All I knew was I got this letter, and come from a family of people who served, and different times of,
Yep.
it wasn't yet splitting up the country, but I did know, and they gave me the idea, or the recruiter did, that if I did go to Vietnam or something like that, I'd be protected by the Army. The Army's around the Air Force, and the Marines are around the Army, so you'll be well protected. They didn't say anything about mortars.
No, no, they don't tell you that part.
They don't mention that. I guess that was an oversight on that good sergeant's memory that day. He just, I forgot to tell him about that. And not to joke about it,
no,
no one knew certainly about Agent Orange. As a matter of fact, the real sad part is they denied that after the fact. Yeah. The veterans denied it. So it became almost sad. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, they just kept lying to us. They lied every day.
Every day.
They're still doing. Yeah.
Bert, we're on the air. This is a great story that I remember from you. You telling me on cassettes that we'd send back and forth from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And you were in Vietnam. I was in Sacramento. And the experience sticks in my head. Your experience sticks in my head where you were in, I think it was called base ops or something, where you were keeping track of airplanes going on missions and logging hours and flight time. And
well, what I did, I was in two different jobs because the Air Force base that I was on in Nha Trang was a small airstrip, and we had no jets. We had only prop planes, like the gunships, the Spooky and Shadow gunships, which were DC-3s and C-119s, C-47s, and we had a bunch of helicopters. We had forward air controllers and the little one-engine Pipers, and that when I was at that base, I was just doing like computer work. We were keeping track of the crew members' flying times. The pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, blah blah, whatever they were. And this was at the beginning of computerization, and so I did that.
A UNIVAC computer?
No, I think they were IBM, if I'm not mistaken. But we just did the punch cards. The people, the crew members had to fill in a form. I think it was called a Form 5, and it was the flight time for every sortie, every single one. And they had to have their time put on these punch cards, and then we'd run the punch cards down to data processing, and that's how they kept track of everybody's flying time. So I did that for about 9 months, and then the base closed. Basically, the Americans left that base in Nha Trang. They gave it back to the Vietnamese. So since I had 3 months left, they switched me over to the Direct Air Support Center, which was just a little bit down the road off the base. And that's the place where they actually scrambled the flare ships and scrambled the fighters for air support and logged. They logged the places where the B-52s would hit. The duty officer would have to call in a heavy artillery warning to certain spots. Guys would have to know that it was coming, so they wouldn't be around when the B-52s came. So they logged where the bombers hit on a big board, and and a lot of times the coordinates pilots called it.
It was
a couple of times. They call in the coordinates, and the duty officers saying, "Wait a second, maybe they were in Cambodia just by mistake."
Right,
possibly.
That's what sticks in my head, and it's been 45 years.
He said, "You sure about those coordinates? That sounds like Neverland to me." That's what he told the pilot. We'll have to fudge that a little bit. So,
speaking of
the shit that went on, man.
Pathological lies that run rampant. Me sitting in California at Travis Air Force Base, I would read the Air Force Times, and it would report the number of casualties.
Oh yeah.
In the week or the month or whatever it was, and in off-duty hours, which was most of the time, as it turned out, I would go down to the flight line and sit there in my car and watch planes, 141s, unload these. And for the life of me, I remember going down and I remember counting the bodies. I don't remember if the American flag was draped around the caskets then, or if
they probably did that. Yeah, they probably did that at Dover.
Right.
Probably flew them over the. Yeah.
Exactly, but in my mind, that's not what sticks in my mind. What sticks in my mind was the vast numbers that I was counting that didn't coordinate with the numbers that were reported in those times. So they were lying about the casualty rate, and like I say, that it shouldn't have surprised me, but at the time, I'm sitting there on the flight line thinking I could get orders and be in Vietnam tomorrow. I'm doing everything I can for that not to happen, but it very well could, and I'm thinking I could go be lost over there or killed or however you want to say it, or missing in action, and never even reported upon, not even be a stat.
Right.
That's what it's like, Robert, to be what they call a GI. So that gives us all a and then when you in the essence of it is whatever turmoil was created, the boys in action and women in action, girls in action, were not treated properly by the veterans when they came home. And that was just the start of it. They had the Afghan war after that and what have you. And there's never been enough money allocated by the government to take care of the casualties. So I've always advocated, talking to anybody, my kids' friends, I've always said they don't think enough of you to take care of you when you come back. So
right. It's all charities. It's all charities that do it. Government does nothing. Yeah. Or the VA. You know what the VA? They're from hunger. So.
That's improved, from what I understand, in the last few years.
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so.
So, anyway, that's our Veterans Rant, Veterans Day rant. Marty Rose is the hero, ladies and gentlemen.
Please.
Well, please, nothing. I know the backstory.
Okay.
All right. We're going to talk a little baseball. Let Robert Cole start us off on anything he wants to talk about. We got stuff to talk about with the Mets, positions to be determined. What's going on?
Well, number one, Chili Davis, who was the hitting coach and did quite a good job, apparently has not been offered a contract. His current contract is up, and the Mets have not done anything to sign him. And rumors today were that the Phillies were going to sign him as their hitting coach.
He wanted a multi-year deal. You see what they were saying. That was reported.
Well,
so I don't know why they wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit.
So it's a new manager. Are they thinking maybe the new manager should have say in who's going to be on the coaching staff?
Well, they've never done that in the past. An interesting thing that I didn't know until just recently, I don't know if you guys knew, was that Mickey Callaway did not pick Dave Island as his pitching coach. Okay, Dave Island was given to him, and that they consistently went at it with each other, which is why Dave Island finally got fired. They were never on the same page. Now, I never knew any of that, and I always thought that Mickey picked Dave Island, but he did not. And
both coming from Cleveland, am I correct?
No, Island
Callaway
came
from Cleveland. Where did Island come from?
Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with the Royals. But I always thought the two of them, were as one, but apparently not. They were constantly in conflict with one another. And Sandy Alderson always picked the coaches. In the past, that the manager never really had much of a say in who his coaches were. So I did hear that Brody was going to, confer with the new manager and Beltran, and maybe that's part of the case. I don't know, but Chili Davis did an excellent job, and we'll see what happens from there. They still don't have a pitching coach either, so it's hard to see where they're going. And the general manager's meeting started today, so things are starting.
Do you happen to know how Callaway and Riggleman got along? If they were on the same page.
Well, from what I understand, again, Riggleman was given to Callaway. Okay, if you remember, the first year, Riggleman was not the bench coach. The bench coach was another American leaguer, and that was said to be, a problem because the bench coach nor the manager really knew the National League, so they gave him Riggleman this year. And from what I understand, Riggleman did what he could, but I don't think they were very, very close at any point. And,
I had never seen them on I think I mentioned this once before.
Yeah.
I never saw any camaraderie, and the few times, and there were more than a few times I saw them on television, and I never saw them just chatting with each other or talk. It's just very cursory, and just the guy looking in on television.
No, you're right.
Curious.
There never was much of a. It seemed, other times, you always used to see Don Zimmer and Joe Torre sitting together.
As you said that those two guys flashed in my head. Yes,
Yep.
They'd be talking before the game, after the game, during the game, absolutely. Right. And that, and there's no question that that's very important in a team's success. Is how a manager runs the game, and no manager could do it alone. No one, just too damn big a job.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll change this year.
And then my other bitch and rant will be about Edgardo Alfonzo, the way they've treated him. And he's very put out, very upset about that. Marty and I were talking a little bit offline about that, and
he should be. He should be upset. Terrible.
And then some guy on Facebook missed the entire spirit of it. He says, well, it isn't the minor league's job to have champions. It's the minor league job to bring guys to the big leagues, this, that, and the other thing. It just diminishes the entire experience of being a minor league coach or manager and the importance that it plays in develop. Imagine the winning attitude that Brooklyn has, that those guys have, just by winning in whatever league you are. It's got to serve them well all through the organization. And for them to do that to Alfonzo, this guy was a terrific ball player and as good a second baseman probably as they've ever had.
And a fan favorite.
And a fan favorite, and a guy who is great with PR in New York. I mean, just being exposed to it all. What the hell is with the management of this organization? Are they?
It's Brody, man. Brody wants it his way, and that's it. That's it, man. And then Wilpon is just letting him do what he wants. Apparently, except if he asks for a lot of money, then he's not going to get it.
Like Beltran. Beltran expressed wanting Terry Collins to be his, bench coach, and that's not going to happen.
Nope.
And one of the reasons why it's not going to happen is Terry Collins is not a Brody guy.
That's it. Really
See, I thought, just from reading the reports, that Collins is out of the mix for that. I was surprised, but I assumed that was Beltran's call. I had no idea.
Well, Beltran publicly said several times that he would like to have Terry Collins as his bench coach, and that Terry Collins said that he would be happy to mentor him. Well, Brody's not going to have any of that, so. And
whatever happened to the common good of winning and putting all that bullshit aside?
Well, what's going to be interesting, too, is, there's a lot of talk about the Red Sox wanting to trade Mookie Betts. And, a lot of the Mets fans and the papers and stuff, are all over that, different trades they can make and stuff like that. Well, it's going to be interesting because you have Brody Van Wagenen, who is the GM of the Mets, and the Red Sox GM, is Chaim Bloom, who could have been the GM of the Mets if the Mets had, done things properly. So it'd be very interesting to see the two of them trying to work something out.
But he's a free agent,
start with
right?
you, Marty. Do you think an even-up Mookie Betts for Syndergaard would be in the Mets' best interest?
No, because I believe Mookie Betts is a free agent at the end of next season.
Yes, he is.
So, without, and I'm sure anything the Mets might offer him wouldn't be enough. So he'd never sign with them because they wouldn't offer him enough. I would not trade for a guy. I wouldn't give up anybody of any value for a guy that's only going to be here for 1 year. I wouldn't do it.
No. Okay. And one of the Mets publications, put out a package that would get Mookie Betts, and it was totally ridiculous. It would be Syndergaard, Nimmo, the third baseman that they drafted this past year, and Peterson.
Patty?
Yes.
Get out of here! That's ridiculous. Oh my God. That is.
And they said, there's no way you would trade that for 1 year of Mookie Betts.
No.
Well,
way.
I'll tell you what. If push came to shove, you wouldn't mind Nemo in center field.
No.
He's still got room for improvement, Yeah.
But I love his attitude. I love the way he enjoys the game, and he's not. He's a pretty damn good ball player.
Yeah. The only thing that gets me about him he takes too many call third strikes, trying to get walks. He's got to be a little bit more aggressive up there. Because he's a pretty good hitter.
Yeah. But that's what scares me about, Brody. Okay, Brody's a big splash guy, and that's just the kind of a deal, Mookie Betts, and he'll give half the farm, and get Mookie Betts, and that just terrifies me, having him, calling the shots.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll take Cano. Just a thought. It's getting Christmas. You got to have something under the tree for yourself.
Now, another one of the deals that I wrote about on the internet was the Rays and the Mets possibly making a deal where the Rays would send Kiermaier to the Mets along with one of their young pitchers that were in the major leagues, Yanni Chirinos from McNeil.
Oh, somebody came out against that, and it could have been me. It wasn't, but I read what he said. I think McNeil is arguably the best ball player on the team. Yeah. I mean, he plays 7 different positions. It's not a backhanded compliment against the rest of the ball players. I don't think you trade him. And Kiermaier, as that guy said, isn't a very good hitter. He is a great center fielder. I've seen him on clips go over the wall. Am I right, Robert?
Yeah.
Does he amaze on a regular basis?
Yeah, he won the Gold Glove again this year, I think, for the 5th time, and he's already won 2 Platinum Gloves, which is given to the best overall defensive player in baseball. And, he may get another one this year. So, absolutely a tremendous center fielder. But a little bit like Lagares, he plays so hard and so recklessly that he gets hurt almost every season.
Yeah. I don't know if we talked about this on last week's show. The Mets have parted ways with Lagares.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So, right. Well, we knew that was coming. They're going to pick up a $9 million option. I don't think so. Yeah.
And then one of the other trades that was being speculated was Edwin Diaz being traded to the Dodgers for, I'm trying to remember who.
Peterson?
No, it wasn't Peterson.
No.
It was one of their pitchers and Kiki Hernandez.
Oh.
And one of their 5th starting pitcher. And that didn't make much sense to me either. I mean, you go ahead, you have Diaz. Diaz is still cheap. He's still making under $1 million a year right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you see if you can resurrect him,
And what's your second best option if you didn't have him? Who would you replace him with?
You don't really have anybody right now, unless you keep Lugo in Lugo's role, but Lugo can only pitch, once every
other day.
3 days. Yeah. Or
conundrums.
Yeah.
Hey guys, great show.
Let's mention one more thing, Ralph. Alonzo won Rookie of the Year with 29 out of 30 first place votes.
Not a surprise, but it's still nice to hear.
Yep.
Who did they announce who did not vote for him?
Not yet. I haven't heard yet. But,
right.
No.
That's interesting. And
we'll hear
we
it
haven't
tomorrow.
said it on these airwaves. Congratulations to Washington. I wasn't rooting for either team at the beginning, but when you think back about what Washington fans have suffered with for the past 1,000 years, losing two different franchises, 31 years since the second Senators left. 31 years is a lot of years. That's another thing. Time's going by too damn quickly. It really is.
It's true.
It ain't even funny anymore.
And every year it goes faster.
Every day it goes faster.
It
really,
does.
it seems. So just enjoy it. Hug your loved ones and keep the baby faiths or something like that. Thank you for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Robert Cole, Marty Rose, I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. See you next week, guys.
Good night.
Okay, good night.
Good night. The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.